All right, guys, welcome back here. We are back to our Death album review series. We took a brief little detour talking about the new Ozzy record, Patient Number 9, which was really fun. And of course, we still got coming up the updated ranking of the Ozzy Osbourne albums. But tonight, we're going to take a look at the next Death album, 1995. We're almost done with this stuff here. We're at the second last one, Symbolic. And definitely a iconic album and a very symbolic album, in their discography and in death metal as a whole. Very, very classic album. And of course, we've got that really cool album cover here. We got the lineup, of course, is shaking up again here. Gene Hoglan on drums, Bobby Coeld also on guitar. Obviously Chuck is doing the vocals and guitar and all that as well. But another guitar player is Bobby Cold on there, which I don't really know who he is. And Kelly Conlon on bass, not really sure exactly who he is either. But, I know Gene Hoglan on drums, fantastic freaking drummer. Really crazy looking disc in here as well. But, anyways, guys, this thing, as I already said, this is a very classic and iconic album just in death metal as a whole. Very big record for these guys. Probably, I can safely say it's the best produced album, production-wise, for these guys. I mean, super clean, but obviously it's death metal, so it's heavy as all get out. But we start off the album with one of my favorite tracks off here, right off the bat, Symbolic. That gnarly, just brutal riff that just kicks this thing off. The I mean, Jesus, that is just one of the sickest riffs and just the guitar tone, Chuck and that other guitar player getting on there is just phenomenal with this production and everything in mind coming into play. And just Symbolic has some cool time changes and such involved in there. And that's just one of my favorite death songs ever, which I always liked it. But just as I've kind of continued to listen, this is one of those that that song, I almost forgot how much I loved it because that riff oh man, fantastic song. Then we go over to Zero Tolerance with very, very heavy stuff right here. I mean, man, this one is just a fantastic track. Very super heavy vocals, there will be zero tolerance. I mean, oh my God, just straight off the bat, you hit two home runs for me here with those two. I just a big fan of Zero Tolerance. It's always been one of my favorites off there. Very powerful stuff lyrically, thematically, and of course musically. Empty Words, this has become just top tier stuff for me. Another one, I mean, that's 3 in a row of some of my favorites off here. Some of the best stuff Death has ever put out. The riff and the chorus of Empty Words is just, breathtaking. Breathtakingly just chuggy and heavy, Oh my God. There's this track in particular is just filled with all these different riffs and things that make it up in a very complex song as far as like the development goes through with it. But just once you kick into that chorus with that riff, my God, it just will blow your freaking socks off, man. Love it. Love Empty Words. Then we go to Sacred Serenity, which is another solid track. I will say that's probably one of my least favorites off here. But it's an amazing track in of itself, But if I'm having to pick between, some of my least favorites, that would probably be one of them, as I just don't think it stands out as much as some of these other ones. 1000 Eyes is what we got next, and my God, this is one of the heaviest ones off here. I mean, shit, just the vocals of Chuck, which of course they have evolved as we kind of went on, but they've still been like Chuck's vocals. They'll really change on the next album, as we'll find out when we talk about it. But this one, it reminds me a lot of something that would be off Leprosy, kind of the even deeper kind of growl that Chuck's got going on there. In 1000 Eyes, which I totally dig. Incredible song. Then Without Judgment is what we got next. And this one, I would say this one's probably kind of with Sacred Serenity is one of my least favorites. Um, but again, both just incredible songs. No doubt they have their place on this album, and it adds to the flow of this thing. Great, you know. But I will say that's just probably my least favorite. I would even say I like Sacred Serenity better than Without Judgment, but it's a solid one. Then, oh my God, this is one of their biggest songs they've ever put out, Crystal Mountain. And it's for damn good reason, because my God, this has always been one of my favorite Death songs and one of the best songs off this album, you know, and their discography. It's just such a powerful song with kind of like the driving force behind it. You know, you got Gene Hoglan over there beating on them drums where there's kind of these clean portions of the guitar going on in the verses. Then it picks up and you have like that driving riff, you know, in the Inside Crystal Mountain. And just the way the riff is in that chorus, it just feels like you're like pushing through and pushing forward. One of my favorite Death songs. This one always gets you hyped. And I love the kind of, you know, acoustic, maybe even Spanish guitar kind of sounding ending there that kind of is playing over the really heavy riff that kind of adds some cool contrast to that track. And it's just beautifully heavy track. Then we go with Misanthrope, another one I forgot how much I liked. Another, just like 1,000 Eyes, one that is up there as one of the heaviest ones off here, which they're all heavy as hell. Don't get me wrong, but Misanthrope, I mean, it's just got like that really fast, you know, Misanthrope. It's just kind of, you know, these little like stops in between and just the kind of the jagged and jarring riff that I really like from it. And just another fantastic one that I really forgot how much I liked. And it's, you know, rose up pretty high up here as one of my favorites. Then, man, we get an epic here with this, like, what, I think 7-minute and something track. An epic. And these guys know how to do them. They know how to do them well. We're talking about Perennial Quest as the closing track. And just fantastic stuff. Love it. This just really showcasing the genius and the, you know, the complex nature of Chuck Schuldin's mind. And, you know, how technical he really was. I mean, the proggy moments in this one especially that we've kind of been talking about as we've gone through these albums and have seen the evolution, like, you know, of these big, lengthier tracks happen, these more complicated time signatures. You know, I mean, you listen to a song like Perennial Quest versus a song off, you know, something from Scream Bloody Gore, and you're getting, obviously, they're both going to sound like, oh, that's Death, but one is more raw and rugged sounding and garagey in a way, while this one is much more refined and technical, but yet still, you know, just as fucking heavy. And I think that's a really cool contrast when you look at the discography of Death, you know, and this is a really big point to really look back, like, wow, look how much they've changed in that time. And again, it'll really be when we check out the next album. But overall, guys, yeah, I mean, come on. 5-star classic right here. No surprise there. This is just an all-time classic death metal essential album. And not one bad song on here. And that's kind of been the case with all these Death albums, you know, but some you cater to more than some others. But this is just a fantastic album. It is, if someone's going to get into death metal, I highly suggest, hey, pop on this one right here. This is a great start, because it can show you how, you know, complex and technical, and even, you know, thrown in little classical fills and stuff like that. Just it shows you what all death metal can truly be, and that's why I think this album has stood the test of time so well, and is still, you know, held up as one of the best death metal albums of all time. Just, oh man, can't say enough about it. Love Symbolic. Just always one of my, you know, if I'm listening to death metal, which really any of the Death albums are go-to stuff, you know, but this one, it's got something about it, man, I'm telling you. But with that being said, guys, stay tuned, because we got some fun stuff coming up. Again, we're going to do that, you know, we're going to do the updated ranking of the Ozzy Osbourne discography. That's going to include Patient Number 9, and damn, that's been hard to kind of, you know, factor in where that album, factor that into the discography rankings and everything. But it's going to be interesting, really fun to, you know, I've been thinking long and hard about it while that thing's, ever since that came out, you know, and I think I've given Patient Number 9, you know, several listens, more than enough to really determine where I want to put it in the rankings. But so that's going to be coming up. That's probably what I'll do next. Other than probably some wrestling reviews I've got coming up as well that, you know, I've been posting those and everything. Probably some more horror film photography stuff that I've really enjoyed doing with the little NECA action figures and stuff. Then, of course, sometime coming up, probably later this upcoming week, we will have the final Death album review of Sound of Perseverance. Came out in 1998, tail end of the 90s. And that one will be really fun. I've not listened to that album in quite some time. So that's going to be a fun one to jump into again after, you know, kind of halting it for so long. Because, you know, obviously I take breaks from the discography maybe a good month or so ahead since I know who I'm going to be covering in the, you know, in the near future. But that's one I really haven't, that one I've probably not listened to as much as maybe some of the others. So I'm excited to kind of go back and listen to that one again. But then, of course, after that, we'll be able to rank all those Death albums, which there's not too many, 7 or 8 of them, I think. But that'll be good going in there. And then in that ranking video, we'll announce the next album. Yeah, it's going to be a one-off thing again that we throw in there, the next album review. And then within that, I'll announce the next discography we're going to be looking at, which is a pretty big one, and pretty big name too, so I'm excited to look into that. But anyways, guys, yeah, let's talk about this thing down there. I know this album means a lot to a lot of people, myself included. So let's talk about the impact that Symbolic had on you as a death metal, heavy metal, and just music fan all around the board. But anyways, guys, yeah, like, subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for both the review for The Sound of Perseverance, Death's final album, and the updated Ozzy Osbourne ranking. Thanks, guys.